Court, the northern kingdom of Oakhaven, was a place where the weak died and the strong froze. Princess Elaria of the Sun Empire shivered beneath her golden silk carriage blankets. She had been sold to the north, a political bride given to the infamous Duke Kaelin, known across the realms as the Wolf of the North. As her carriage passed through the massive iron gates of Blackwood Keep, Elaria pulled her crimson velvet cloak tighter. She wasn't just hiding from the bitter cold. She was hiding her true nature. In the Sun Empire, magic was punishable by death. And beneath Elaria's skin, a dangerous, forbidden fire magic simmered, waiting to break free. Hidden inside the deep pockets of her cloak was her only friend, Ash, a tiny, rare obsidian dragonet, no larger than a cat, who kept her warm with his internal embers. The carriage stopped. Elaria stepped out into the biting wind, her golden hair whipping around her face. Standing at the top of the frozen stone steps was Duke Kaelin. He was not the savage barbarian the southern stories claimed. He was tall, powerfully built, with raven black hair and piercing grey eyes that looked like a winter storm. He wore heavy, dark steel armour, draped in thick, black wolf furs. Beside him stood a creature out of nightmares, Ghost, a massive white direwolf that came up to the Duke's waist. The beast growled, sensing the hidden dragonet in Elaria's coat. Kaelin raised a single leather-gloved hand, and the direwolf fell instantly silent. "Welcome to Blackwood, Princess." Kaelin's voice was deep, echoing in the icy courtyard. "I hope you brought more than silk to survive the winter." Elaria lifted her chin, refusing to be intimidated. "I brought my courage. My lord, I hear that is a rare commodity in the cold." Kaelin's lips twitched into the ghost of a smile. "We shall see." The tension in Blackwood Keep was a physical weight. Elaria and Kaelin were like two opposing elements trapped in a stone cage. At dinner, they sat at opposite ends of a massive oak table, surrounded by Kaelin's fierce northern generals who eyed the southern princess with deep suspicion. One evening, Elaria sat by the grand hearth in the empty library, letting Ash the dragonet out of her cloak. The little creature stretched his leathery, bat-like wings, breathing a tiny puff of orange smoke. Suddenly, the library door pushed open. It was Ghost, the giant white direwolf. Elaria froze, ready to summon her fire to protect her dragonet. But Ghost didn't attack. The massive wolf approached slowly, sniffed the little dragonet, and let out a low huff. Ash chirped, bravely climbing onto the direwolf's giant white paw, seeking the soft fur. Ghost simply lay down, letting the tiny dragon nestle against his nose. "He likes the heat," a deep voice said from the shadows. Elaria jumped. Kaelin stepped into the firelight. He wasn't wearing his armor, just a loose linen shirt and dark trousers. He looked at the dragonet, then at Elaria. In the north, dragons were myths. "You harbor a magical beast, princess. If your brother, the emperor, knew, he would have you burned at the stake," Kaelin said softly, stepping closer. "Are you going to turn me in, my lord?" Elaria challenged, her heart pounding. Kaelin looked down at her, his grey eyes softening. "In the north, we do not cage wild things, Elaria. We protect them." For the first time, Elaria felt a strange, terrifying warmth in her chest that had nothing to do with her magic. Weeks passed, and the ice between the warlord and the princess began to thaw. Kaelin took Elaria, riding into the Weeping Woods, a forest of ancient white pines, to show her the rugged beauty of his homeland. They rode side by side, Ghost and Ash trailing behind them, the direwolf running through the snow while the dragonette glided from tree to tree. "It is peaceful here," Elaria admitted, her cheeks flushed pink from the cold. "It is," Kaelin replied, his eyes entirely focused on her face. "But peace is fragile." As if summoned by his words, the horrific sound of snapping branches echoed through the trees. A dozen men in white cloaks dropped from the pines, armed with heavy crossbows, assassins. But they didn't bear northern crests. They wore the hidden sun sigil of Elaria's brother, the Emperor. "Protect the princess!" Kaelin roared, drawing his massive broadsword. The fight was brutal. Kaelin fought with the fury of a demon, cutting down 2 assassins in a single swing, while Ghost tore the throat out of another. But there were too many. A poisoned arrow grazed Kaelin's shoulder, dropping him to his knees in the snow. An assassin raised his sword to deliver the killing blow to the Duke. Elaria screamed. She didn't think. She just reacted. She threw her hands forward, and a massive, roaring pillar of golden red fire erupted from her palms. The flames engulfed the assassin, turning his armor to slag. The remaining attackers panicked, fleeing into the woods. As Elaria stood panting, her hands glowed with residual embers, the snow melting in a massive circle around her. She fell to her knees beside Kaelin, her hands shaking. "I'm sorry," she sobbed, terrified of the revulsion she expected to see in his eyes. "I'm a monster." Kaelin reached up, his bloodied hand gently wiping a tear from her cheek. "You are not a monster, Elaria. You are a queen of fire." Kaelin survived the poison, thanks to Elaria using her magic to burn the toxin from his blood. That night, in Kaelin's private chambers, the atmosphere shifted from survival to an undeniable, burning passion. Kaelin sat bare-chested on the edge of the bed, his shoulder heavily bandaged. Elaria stood before him, her hands hovering over his skin, checking the wound. The room was illuminated only by the hearth, and the faint glow still radiating from her fingertips. "Your brother sent them," Kaelin said, his voice a low rumble. "He didn't send you here for a treaty. He sent you here to die, so he would have an excuse to invade the north." Elaria looked down, shame filling her eyes. "I am a cursed pawn. I bring nothing but war to your doorstep, Kaelin. You should send me away." Kaelin stood up, closing the distance between them. He gently grabbed her glowing wrists, not flinching at the heat. "The day you arrived at my gates, I swore an oath to protect you, and today you saved my life," Kaelin whispered fiercely, his face inches from hers. "You are my wife, Elaria. War is coming, but I swear to the old gods, I will burn the Sun Empire to ashes before I let anyone take you from me." Elaria looked up into his stormy grey eyes. All her walls collapsing, she surged forward, pressing her lips against his. The kiss was desperate, consuming, and fiercely protective. The fire within her surged, matching the undeniable heat of the northern warlord's embrace. 3 days later, the war horns echoed through the valleys of Blackwood. The Emperor's army, 10,000 men clad in shining gold armor, marched upon the snowy plains. Elaria's brother, Emperor Valerius, rode at the front, demanding the head of Duke Kaelin and the return of his kidnapped sister. Elaria stood on the battlements of Blackwood Keep, wearing a dark leather armor gifted to her by Kaelin, lined with crimson fur. Her golden hair was braided tightly back. Ash the dragonette sat upon her shoulder, hissing at the distant army. Kaelin stood beside her, his broadsword resting in his hand, looking out at the impossible odds. 10,000 men, Kaelin said grimly. My garrison holds only 2,000. Elaria reached out, taking his hand. They do not know what they are facing. They expect a terrified hostage. They expect a broken northern army. She stepped forward to the edge of the wall, looking down at the golden army that sought to destroy her new home. Today, Kaelin, we give them a war they will never forget. The battle commenced with the devastating roar of siege engines. The northern warriors fought with unmatched ferocity, holding the gates against the endless tide of golden soldiers. Ghost. The direwolf was a white blur on the battlefield, tearing through enemy lines, while Kaelin fought like a god of war, his broadsword a whirlwind of steel and blood. But the sheer numbers were overwhelming the northern lines. The main gates began to splinter. It was time. Elaria walked to the highest point of the fortress. She closed her eyes, tapping into the deepest, most forbidden well of her magic. The air around her began to distort with intense heat. Ash the dragonette took flight, releasing a piercing screech that echoed across the valley. Elaria opened her eyes, and they glowed like liquid gold. She thrust her hands towards the sky, and a massive wave of pure, concentrated fire cascaded down from the walls, crashing into the Emperor's siege lines. The snow evaporated instantly into steam. The golden soldiers screamed, breaking formation in sheer terror as a wall of flames cut them off from the fortress. Kaelin looked up at the battlements, awe striking his heart. His wife was a blazing inferno of power, an unstoppable force of nature, rallying his men with a deafening war cry. Kaelin led the countercharge through the gaps in the flames. The Emperor's army, terrified by the magic they had been taught to hate, broke and fled. The battle was won. The aftermath of the battle left the snowy plains scarred with ash and scattered armor. Elaria's brother, the treacherous Emperor, had fled with the remnants of his broken army, abandoning his campaign. The North was safe, and they had sent a message the world would never forget. In the courtyard of Blackwood Keep, the northern soldiers, men who had once viewed Elaria with deep suspicion, now dropped to one knee as she walked among them. They did not fear her magic. They revered it. She was their savior. Kaelin walked towards her, sheathing his bloodied sword. He didn't bow. Instead, he took her face in his hands and kissed her passionately in front of his entire army, sealing their victory. Ghost. The direwolf trotted over, sitting proudly beside them, while Ash, the dragonette, landed gently on Kaelin's armored shoulder, releasing a happy puff of smoke. You are no longer a hostage of the Sun Empire, Kaelin announced, his voice echoing in the quiet, victorious courtyard. He took his heavy, ancient iron crown of the North and placed it gently upon her golden hair. Long live Elaria, Kaelin declared, his eyes filled with endless love and pride. The Queen of Embers, the Mother of the North. And as the northern warriors roared her name into the winter sky, Elaria knew she had finally found exactly where she belonged.